Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about leasing versus buying, round two to continue on last week, but instead of talking about cars today, let's talk about housing or apartments. There was a lot of pushback about my recommendation to lease a car last week. About 87% of people reached out and saying that they think buying is a much better option. And just like last week, today I want to talk about how everyone has different situations and leasing or buying could both be good ideals for what you're trying to get into. And we just have to figure out what is right for you. So without further ado, let's get into whether you should be leasing an apartment. I'm sure everyone tells you this all the time, but when you're a homeowner, your monthly payment tends to be lower than it is when you're renting, which is true. This happens because there's a lot more people in the rental market who want to pay for that flexibility, whereas when you're a homeowner and you're able to make that commitment, your monthly payment's going to end up being lower, and that's just how the market works. A follow-up to the financial point is when you go to purchase a property, and as you own the property, the more you pay against the mortgage, the more equity you're going to have in the house, and you're going to be able to build wealth. If building wealth is something that's important to you, then buying is going to be the right route every time. But if you don't really care about getting your finances to the next level and you just want the flexibility that a lease offers, there's nothing wrong with that, and you can stay flexible with the lease term. One thing you need to have in mind when you're trying to decide if you should lease a place or if you're ready to buy is your finances. Do you have enough money for a down payment? Which most people will, because you can put as low as 3% down on a house, and it ends up being very close to the same amount that you need for first, last, and security deposit. So that portion is pretty equal. But then depending on what type of house you're getting into, having a rainy day fund set aside for any type of big expense, whether it's your water heater or your air conditioning unit or anything that could have a high dollar cost after you get in the house, you just want to have an emergency fund for that. So having a little bit of emergency fund, enough for a down payment, could keep you on the sidelines and renting. But now that you have a mortgage to pay every month and you're on the hook for this mortgage, you might want to think of ways to help make some extra income. You can do this by house hacking, and what that means is if you have an extra bedroom or two, you rent it out to a friend or family member to bring in some extra money to help offset the mortgage, or you can put the extra bedroom on Airbnb when you feel like it to bring in income when you want and not have guests when you don't. That'll help you offset your mortgage and help with the cost of homeownership. Now that we've talked about some of the things that you should be considering when you're trying to decide if you should be leasing or buying a place to live, let's talk about how you know you're ready. When you have an idea of where you want to be and your outlook to be in the same area is for, I would say, the critical point is around 3 years or more. If you think you're going to be in that area for 3 years or more and you're financially stable, you are ready to buy. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the sense of pride that you get with home ownership. I'm sure for most people out there, the goal is at some point to own their own house. And it is a very similar feeling as to when you own your own car, in that when you're in it, you're proud of yourself for getting to this financial milestone. You are happy to show other people that this is yours. You own it, you did the hard work to get there, and you've made it. So that sense of pride is not something that can be brushed away. And just imagine the same sense of pride you got when you bought your first car. It's 10x when you have your own home and you have people over. Planning your future is also a huge part of whether you're gonna lease or buy. And by planning your future, I don't mean you to know everything you want to do and everywhere you want to go immediately now for the rest of your life. But what you do need to know is, will you be in this same area for a while, or do you plan on being there for 12 months or less? If you're going to be in the same area for a while, you're almost always going to be better off buying. If you don't see yourself going anywhere else, again, you're going to be better off buying. But if you just moved into a new city for a job that you're not sure you're going to keep, or whatever the situation may be, and you just want the ability to have an exit strategy, you might just want to lease for now until you have a clearer picture of your future. When you're leasing a property, you have a lot less freedom in what you do with the space. Whereas once you own something, you have the chance to really decorate and get intense with fixtures. And by that, I mean you can do all sorts of home projects once you own and really curate the space to be what you want out of it. Whereas when you lease, you need your landlord's permission for every little thing, whether it's hanging something new up that could potentially damage the house, or if you just want to paint the walls a different color, you don't really have all that much flexibility. Being a homeowner offers you that, so that's something to consider down the road. Maybe you know that you're not going to be in an area for very long and you don't want to commit to a home. You have a couple different options, right? When you go at the end of the time that you're going to be in the home that you purchased, you can either put it up for rent, and okay, maybe you don't want to be a landlord, but you can hire a property management company to run the house for you, and now you have a separate source of income because you're willing to commit to that home. Or you could always just sell it down the line, and when you sell it, again, you can just take this equity and put it into something new, whether it's a new home where you're going next, or now you just have a little extra cash as opposed to when you were leasing and none of that money goes back in your pocket. So last week, you guys gave me a ton of heat for recommending to lease a car versus purchase a car. I'm hoping you guys keep that same mentality when it comes to home buying, in that you see the reason to get into a house. It's an appreciating asset. The value of homes tends to go up year over year. Whereas with a car, your car is going to depreciate year over year. So if you are on team buy for purchasing a car, then you should be on team buy for purchasing a home. If you have any questions about the process and getting started with home buying, that's what I'm here for. That's why I make these videos. And feel free to reach out to me. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts, your reservations on buying a house, anything you think that I missed in this video. I'd be curious to hear from you, and thanks for tuning in.